Hey, what's up everyone? Thought I'd do a little updated tour of my arcade now that I finished restoring my Big Blue. I'm pretty much out of space, so I thought this would be a good opportunity to just just do an updated walkthrough. I haven't done this in probably a couple years. A couple things have changed, some things haven't. But yeah, why don't we just start down the row here.
Make a wish.
That was Wonka. All right, so nothing new here. This is my Eyes cabinet for one of my favorite games of all time, but it does have the BitKit running in it. So I can play, obviously, Eyes, or I can play any one, one of many games on here, which is constantly being updated thanks to Crafty Mech. But yeah, I don't know if I'll ever revert back to the original hardware, but I do have the original Eyes board in there. But the FPGA is just so good. I've been able to smash out big games on that, and I honestly can't tell the difference. So he's really done a good job on that, and it's a lot of fun at parties. People are finally starting to figure out that this is a multi-game, that they can select a different game, and so now it's gotten to be a bit more fun for a lot of my friends that come over. So that's Eyes. Here we've got my Gap Plus that I restored 2019, I want to say. But this also has Galaga 88 in it, which I play, I have to admit, a bit more. So I'm just going to switch here. It's just got the Riddle TV switcher in it. And there you go, Galaga 88. One of the best rendition, if not the best rendition of Galaga, in my personal opinion. So Gap Plus with both Gap Plus and Galaga 88. And then my Super Punch-Out that I restored 2020, I believe, fall of. And this also has regular Punch-Out in it, but I haven't been able to find a good switching solution just yet. The ones that are out there, long story short, neither one of them work really well. They each have their own pros and cons, and so I just manually switch back and forth, but most of the time I keep Super Punch-Out in this cabinet, or running in this cabinet. But yeah, it's got the free play mod, so if you just hit any one of these buttons, it'll start a game. But yeah, one of my favorites. And you'll notice that I don't have Marble Madness, and that was because I sold Marble Madness to get this game. And in the market right now, they're pretty close in value. At least they were. I don't know what it is lately, but with all the inflated prices, who knows? Of course, don't need much of an introduction here. This is my old Miss Pac. It's got the little 4-in-1 kit in it, so you can play Miss Pac and Pac-Man fast or slow. But yeah, this was one of my older restorations. I used vinyl art. If I was going to do it now, I would do it just like my girlfriend's cabinet and re-stencil the whole thing. But since we have an overlap here, we each have a Miss Pac-Man. Eventually, this will go on the chopping block once we figure out our living arrangements. And then my quote-unquote dedicated Toki. This was originally a Robotron cabinet that had been kind of bastardized. It had been converted to a silkworm. There was no original parts for Robotron. It had black laminate on the sides. So it was a perfect candidate for this, because this was a kit game, only came as a kit. And I remember seeing this almost always in a Williams cabinet such as this. So I wanted to restore it that way. My buddy Mock, aka Steve Wesson, did the artwork. He redesigned the marquee, and he made this designed this custom bezel, which is absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, so I'm really happy with this one. I don't know if I'll ever sell it. It's such a fun platform game. It's very difficult, but yeah, I love it. And then here is the latest edition. This is the Big Blue that I just finished restoring. You guys hopefully have seen all those videos. There's, I think, 5 of them. And this has 2 multi-games in it. Right now, I've got the Mister running. So this is FPGA, similar to the Eyes cabinet. So it's hardware emulation. And again, especially with CPS1 games such as this is the Street Fighter II Hyper Fighting, it's so well done that I can't honestly tell the difference between this and original hardware. So I put the Mister in here mostly to cover all the CPS1 versions of Street Fighter II. This is mostly my Street Fighter II cabinet, but there are a bunch of other games on there. And you can access that by holding down and start. And that brings up a menu here. And you can go core and yeah, there are a ton of games. But anyways, let's exit out of there. So right now I've got Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting, but you know, any one of those games. And then if I want to switch, I also have the Darksoft kit running on a original CPS2 Marvel Superheroes board. And that means I can play any CPS2 game I want on that kit. And now granted, there's CPS2 games on the Mister, so it's a little bit redundant, but us fighting game guys, sometimes we get a little anal, maybe is the right word, and want to play on original hardware. So that's what that's for. And I don't think I can reach it without, but if I hold both these start buttons down, I'm just going to set it on the screen here. So, and I'm holding start button player 1 and start player 2 down. And that's going to switch over. And now we've got Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo running on original hardware. I usually leave it on here. This is the game I play the most on this cabinet. This is what I kind of based this whole entire project around, was this game. So I usually leave it on here. But if I wanted to change it, I can lift up. Normally I keep the control panel locked down, but for the video I left it unlatched. But down here, you see that little LCD screen? Focus. So that allows me to select between any one of all the CPS2 games. I just use there's a little toggle on the left here. So there we go. You could select a game and then hit enter and it'll start loading that. So pretty cool. I'm just going to close that up. And then down here, like some of my games, and I mentioned this in my video, but there's a credit button because there are so many games between the two multi-kits and not all of them have free play. So that's there just to make things simple. If I open this up, I've got, I probably can't see, but I've got an amp off to the side here. That's for the Mister. And then that's my Q sound amp. So if I'm running the CPS2 stuff, I want to use the Q sound amp, and this switch has that red LED so that I know that it's on. Because if I didn't wire up that switch, the Q sound amp is always running. And so if I try to use the Mister and I have this amp going, you get all kinds of combating noise and terrible stuff. So I needed a way to switch that. So I'm just going to shut that off. By default, I usually leave both of them off. Actually, I usually leave the Mister on because that's what boots up first. But yeah, that's how that works. So that's the Big Blue. And then, of course, one of my favorites, Arkanoid, Revenge of Dough. And I just posted a video about this not too long ago where I was getting some really weird shenanigans relating to the coin door and ended up being a wiring issue. But if you haven't checked out that video, it's kind of funny. It was a pretty obvious problem. And then Super Hang-On, not much to say here. I'm not particular to a lot of racing games. They're not really my thing, but I like Super Hang-On a lot for whatever reason. I'm not sure, but it's a really slick game. I like the small footprint, and I don't know if I'll ever sell it. The restoration came out great. I'm really proud of it. And because it does take up a small footprint, it's not very cumbersome. Then my red tent. Not much to say here either. I've got Super Mario and Dr. Mario running. I almost always keep these going, mainly because they're the games that people play the most at parties. I can switch these out. Once in a while I will, but I have friends that are always especially looking to play Dr. Mario, so I just leave these in there. They're both iconic games, but hopefully someday someone will do like an FPGA for this, and I can easily swap between them because it is kind of a pain, even with extra PCBs, to swap the boards out. And you know, you don't want to remove those daughter cards too much because they're real finicky. The pins are, honestly, I feel too big for the sockets, and they can take a lot of reseating to get them to work consistently. So I usually just leave these guys in here, and I don't leave the red tent here during parties. Usually what I'll do is if I'm having people over, I'll move this like over there, like up against the sliding door there by my balcony, because that just opens up a lot of space. And then if you look down here, you see the black tape. That's my throw line for the dartboard. And so clearly you can't have the red tint there. But yeah, so speaking of dartboards, so this is my, used to be a Medalist. They rebranded to NS Network Sports. But this is the same dartboard I've had since like 2007, I think. And with an upgraded kit in it, clearly. And then that's my spectator monitor. So if I'm having people over and we're all into the darts, that TV I think I got for like 30 bucks on Craigslist. And it's just an easy way for people to look at the score if we're having like a tournament or something. You know, it's a little overboard, but you know, 30 bucks. And then just like the other games, I have this is my little credit button there, since this game does not have free play. And speaking of this, just probably half an hour ago, I fixed this. I realized, so this is there's a PC in there basically, and it wasn't powering up. I probably haven't had this game on since my last party, honestly. And so that's probably a few months ago. And just like any computer, it's got a CMOS battery. Ultimately, that battery died, and I had to revert to some settings. And then there was a problem with one of the RAM sticks, one of the memory modules. But since it is basically a PC, I do find that it's a little bit simpler to troubleshoot, since, you know, I've built PCs my whole life. So, but yeah, so I was going to record this video earlier today, and this is what was preventing me from doing that. So luckily it was a simple fix. Let's see, computer. All right, and then we've got my Wonka. Last time I did the walkthrough, I had just gotten this game, and I hadn't done any mods to it, but it is all modded out, and they've done so many software updates to this. I should actually check and see if there is a new one. But yeah, this is my Wonka. I'm really happy with the way this came out. It's a fun and very frustrating game because it's very difficult. But yeah, I did a real detailed mod video series. I think it's 4 parts, and that's on my channel. So if you are interested in that, be sure to check those videos out. And this is my my pseudo Wonka decor. You know, the poster, cardboard cutout, and then some makeshift Wonka bars, and of course gobstoppers. But I kind of like that. I like the little wall decor. So yep, that's Wonka. And then right on the other side of it, we got my Cheyenne. This hasn't moved since the last video, I believe, but it's a good place for it. And then I've added these flyers. I think they look pretty sharp. In fact, I've got flyers for all of my games that I'm working on getting framed, and then I want to put them up above all the games because I don't know where else I could really put them to match up with them. So I'm probably just going to mount them on the wall up there. But yeah, that's, oh, I didn't talk about this. And then here's my Mega Touch. Now, this has changed since the last video. I had an Ion Elite Edge model, and this is the Aurora, and runs the same amount of games because it's still the same hardware, just a different form factor. Actually, let me turn on the light here so you can see a little bit. But this one kind of fell into my lap from my buddy Dave. And so I restored this one, I fixed it up, bulletproofed it, decided to keep it for myself, and sold the Elite Edge to my buddy Jason, who has it now. But yeah, I've said this a gazillion times, but I will never be without a Mega Touch because they get played so much. In fact, you know, anytime I have a party, what ends up happening is, you know, people play, they'll play a bunch of the games, but at the end of the night, it's either darts, pinball, or Mega Touch, or all of them. And this gets consistent play, like throughout the whole night, like constant play. And me and my girlfriend play all the time too. So it's such a fun thing. I'll never be without one of them. But yeah, so that's pretty much everything. And I was just talking about wall decor. So I'm out of space. The Big Blue was the last game that I wanted to add to my collection in this apartment. And now that I've done that, I'm done because I can't see myself selling any one of these games at all. I like them all. I'm real happy with them. I don't want to part with any of them. So that means I'm pretty much out of space and I'm done. And that's kind of a relief because now, like I was saying, I get to start working on fun stuff like wall decor, maybe getting some neon signs, movie posters, things like that. But yeah, I think until I move out of this place, I'm done collecting games for the time being. So pretty happy with that, but that's where everything stands as of today. So anyhow, thought you guys might enjoy this. I don't know, maybe it's just documenting this for historical purposes for myself, who knows. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. So take care.